the Lawrence Heritage State Park. I want to welcome everybody that's here today and welcome people at home. When you see this at home, we're right in the middle of Halloween season, my favorite time of year. Today marks just another milestone day here in Essex County. Yes, Essex County is home of Salem, Massachusetts, and the witch hysteria that did happen in the towns of Andover and in the town of Middleton. Danvers, sorry, Danvers, not Middleton, Danvers. But all of Essex County is haunted. And this side of Essex County where we are today is very underrated. Lawrence, Methuen, Haverhill, Lawrence, anywhere along the river, all the way up to Manchester and beyond, has got plenty of activities. In fact, we have stuff in this area that you're not going to find anywhere else. You're not going to find it in Salem. We have the Canosa Triangle, which is that map over there. And we'll get to that in a little bit. That's pinned area locations of ghost sightings, UFO, and Bigfoot. We have places of old burial grounds all over New England, in Haverhill, Methuen. Lawrence is a new city, but there's still a very exciting burial ground we'll talk about at Bellevue Cemetery. There's a few heavy hit areas at Bellevue, like any other graveyard. We have our missing person cases that still get some hits down along by the 495. You have areas of Native American sites that were in Lawrence that have been now covered for protection. Down there, the new high school that they built over South Lawrence East, down that end of the city. So there's a lot going on here in Essex, in this side of Essex County, and that's what we're going to focus on today, this side of Essex County. Let's start right here in the great city of Lawrence, Massachusetts. Yes, I was born in Methuen, but all my family comes from this great city. And I've seen this great city in its good days, its heydays, and its not so good days. But as far as the paranormal is concerned, we could pretty much start right at Bellevue Cemetery. Bellevue Cemetery is located in Lawrence. It is the city cemetery. It's a big cemetery. And right across the street from where we are right now was the original Pemberton Mill that collapsed due to the machinery being too strong for the old floors. It was not safe. It collapsed, and people started looking to rescue people, and they were using oil lanterns on a wooden mill building. There were people still trapped underneath the ground when someone tripped and fell with that oil lamp. And the fire, it went up like tinder. People died in that great fire. That is now a parking lot where the new Pemberton Mill just turned into housing. We went to 2 years in a row, we went to the Tomb of the Unknown, not in DC. There is a Tomb of the Unknown at Bellevue. And the first year we went, usually anything can be used as a pendulum. So a pendulum, you ask the questions, yes, I've got to make this turn because we know this building has no activity in it, just for people at home. So my yes is this. So usually if you get a yes, it's like this. The events at this Tomb of the Unknown that day had the pendulum literally swinging like this. That's how fast it was going. Just like this, but more on the, like this side, like this. So that's how strong the energy was at that tomb. A year later, we went back, and pardon the pun, there wasn't much energy at all that night. But the year we did go, it was busy. On the 100th year anniversary, while most people were home watching the Patriots head to their first Super Bowl, there was a group of us out at the old Pemberton Mill site. And then we came by here, and then went into the front of Lawrence City Hall, which was locked. It was a Sunday night. But even outside the City Hall was used as a morgue for the disaster, the basement. So there's plenty of activity. In fact, one year during Trails and Sales. The Lawrence Civil War Guard did a paranormal walk. We were lucky enough to do it for them. And one of the people on the walk actually caught a full partial body apparition, and one of the City Hall was open, but the offices were, but you could walk around, the catwalk area, the hallways and stuff. And that's what we did, and the basement where the morgue was. But we got a full body apparition in one of the offices. And then someone had asked if Mr. Wall was here, meaning William X. Wall, a great Lawrence leader at one time. And the pendulum went ballistic. It was all over the map. And you could feel a presence of an older man every time you called out Mr. Wall, former Senator Bill Wall, William Wall. And city councilor extraordinaire. So that's another location in Lawrence that has activity. Some of these old mill buildings we haven't been in, but if you talk to people who work in those buildings, they say the same thing. They've heard doors shut, toilets flushed, nobody in there, and they've seen partial body apparitions. And some of the construction workers that turned over some of these mills came to me privately and said that. I'm not going to say where, and I'm not going to say what construction company, because it's my job to keep that stuff private. Or Essex County wouldn't have the name it has. We don't put your house on the front page of Facebook. There are teams out there that will do that. I don't put your house on the front page of Facebook at all. So that's some of the locations here in Lawrence. The Common, I imagine if we were able to do a full-fledged investigation on that with nobody there, you'd pick stuff up, because every time I've been there for events, my head spins with the amount of activity. And this year we were there filming Bread and Roses, and something wanted to come inside of me and to channel it. That's when channeling is when you let the spirit of the unknown in your body and you speak like that spirit. That's channeling. And I didn't let it in, but there were plenty of spirits that day that wanted to come in and say hi. So that would be another great place to check out. But throughout Essex County, we're lucky to live here. It's one of the older counties. New England is what it is, New England. It's older than the left coast is older than the west coast, or the right coast, or whatever you want to call it. However you want to look at the map of the United States, too. Methuen, Tenny Gatehouse. As you can see over here, these are light anomalies, and this odd picture came from the gatehouse. It was taken with an IR. You'll see this up close later, but when you come up look at it. But it kind of looks like a face with horned ears. Someone actually saw the horned ears. I've looked at it. I had to pull it out of the plastic sheet. I had this, my tech guy, Bill, had this one blown up, and that's from Bill. These were taken with an IR camera. So, an infrared camera, so that works a little differently than a flash camera. So that's one of them. And then over here was also taken at the Tenny Gatehouse. And then you see that light anomaly right at the top of the light, you can actually see a face. So that's a partial body apparition, because you can only see from here to here. You might see the legs, but it's real hard to tell, but from the waist up, it's really easy to see that there's something there. And that was all taken at the Tenny Gatehouse in the film. And so was it this picture. This was taken up in the turret room of the Tenny Gatehouse, which was very active. We spent a lot of years fundraising money for the Methuen Historical Society over there. That's one thing Essex County does do, is we fundraise. This year, most of our events were fundraisers, actually. And we've done things at the Hilldale Cemetery, Sandown Meeting House, Sandown Train Station. This weekend we'll be back at the Sandown Meeting House. but we get stuff right through October. 31 events in October. Just did a talk at the Methuen Senior Center. I've done talks at assisted living places, so we're all over the map. Be about 150 events by the time we're done this year. Now, as we move through Methuen, down there, presentation, the old presentation of Mary Academy. There's an old graveyard there, and there's a crypt in there, Mrs. Searles, Mrs. Hopkinson Searles. In that, we did, during COVID, we did a Tom Live show in a lot of the graveyards, because I wasn't gonna sit around and do nothing. That's not my personality. So my team went out, we did Tom Live shows, and we had fun doing them. We did a lot with the Tom Live shows. It was a great time, great feel for everybody. We had fun, and that's all that mattered. And we educated the public on paranormal. We caught some great stuff in there. And then for years, they talked about the dog buried right across from the entrance of presentation of Mary Academy at the parking lot near the driveway near St. Monica's. There's a stone obelisk there of a stone, looks like a doghouse. Suppose if you walk around it 2 or 3 times and you'll hear the dog barking if you call out the dog's name. I've tried it during the daytime, it never worked for me, but that was one of those written up at Halloween in the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. Another thing that was written up in the Lawrence Eagle Tribune that dealt with, I just got to get my notes here, folks. That dealt with the paranormal. This was even more interesting. The Martin Tree Farm, located off of House Street in Methuen, it is no longer there. Oh, here it is. So the old Martin Tree Farm was written in 3 different books, plus the Tribune. It was a tree farm located near the Havel border. So what happened was, and this didn't last that long, so I have to question it, but it was in the Tribune. So on Tuesday, October 25th, 1963, family was sitting in the living room watching TV, relaxing, and all of a sudden water spouted from the couch, the walls, and everywhere. It was interesting to read about this. And then it started with a small spot, and then it just blew up the water everywhere. It did it for over 2 hours every 20 seconds, then it would stop. 20 seconds the water would run, then it would stop, and then it would start up again for 2 hours. Now, we don't know what was going on. That considered poltergeist activity. We never investigated the farm. It's torn down. It's now a housing project. City officials were called in. The police were called in. They could find no real reason. Fire, police, the state were called in. There was no reason for it to happen. So the family got a little, little audit about that. And what they did was, one witness saw a cascade of waterfalls coming down the stairs of the house. They found over a quart of water in the couch. So the family moved to the in-laws' house right here in Lawrence on Andover Street for a couple days. While living on Andover Street, it continued, and then one day it stopped. He contacted the paper, said it stopped, it never happened again, and it's real interesting that it followed them, and then all of a sudden the poltergeist activity stopped. They didn't say why it stopped. They just contacted the newspaper because the newspaper went to the house of Lawrence to see if there was anything going on there. All of a sudden, the whole thing stopped. The Martins moved back to their home in Methuen off of House Street, and it's been in the paper for years, up until a few years ago when they stopped running those Halloween specials in the Tribune. And like I said, it's been in a few different locations throughout. So that's a Lawrence Methuen connection. Now, when I was a kid, I went to the house school. I could always sense there was something watching us in that building. It's now condos. Never been in there to investigate it formally, but I know what I felt and saw, and I know what other people that I've talked to as we've gotten older and left grammar school, left middle school and high school, and went out in the real world and got jobs, and some had families, some haven't, and they now tell me what they've seen in there. So that was interesting. And then after the house school, I went to Methuen High School, where this is well documented that a kid in Methuen High School actually died in the ice rink, and his spirit has been seen there. Former staff members have told me, former high school hockey players have told me from Methuen High, and I say all former because we need to protect the people who tell us these stories, because not everybody believes. But I hear the same story from people who don't even know each other. And if you don't know each other and you're getting the same story and seeing the same thing, that to me is evidence enough to talk about it. Then from Methuen High School, I left Methuen. I went to Bradford College, which is still standing but no longer Bradford College today. And Academy Hall, Denworth Hall, and all those locations, including Kimball Tavern, all have activity. I did formally investigate Kimball Tavern, and we had footsteps, voices, and shadow figures seen. And a friend of mine whose team took a picture outside of Kimball Tavern, got a great photograph. The picture actually made the newspaper of someone looking out the window at us. But Academy Hall, and a lot of people had seen things. I never formally investigated Academy Hall or those buildings, but Kimball Tavern I did. We did, Essex County did. Academy Hall, one night it snowed so bad out, I stayed on campus in the co-ed section with some friends. And I got up to use the restroom, and this lady came out. I didn't even see where she came from, but all of a sudden there's a light with a candle. Someone's walking with a candle in Victorian garb. Now, I went to Bradford College, so seeing women dressed up in Victorian garb was a norm. It was an arts college, so everybody expressed their dress through art. I wasn't on an art major, I'm a history major, but art was the big thing for Bradford. And a lot of my friends went on to work in Hollywood productions and stuff. So Bradford was a great school. But I'm walking towards the restroom. All of a sudden, this thing just disappeared because it got dark as I walked into the restroom, and she disappeared. So that was one thing. People have seen and heard things in the tunnels underneath the academies in the middle. Denworth would be over here if you're standing at Academy Hall stairs, and Hazeltine Hall over here. People would actually see things out in the yard at night. This is after class, so this wasn't a party college where, you partied and you start seeing and hearing things. People saw these things without partying. So, and I've seen a few things there, but apparitions on the front lawn and shadow figures and voices in the tunnels. So that's always interesting. And upstairs over Academy Hall was a big telescope. They used to teach astronomy in there. And there's a girl that walks from there down the stairs, down the main flight of stairs. She was supposedly, she hung herself. She's seen in there. So it's another great location of paranormal activity here in Essex County. All right, so I'm going to step over here real quick. Many years, 3 years ago, the Haverhill Public Library asked me to do a talk on haunted Haverhill. So I pulled all my files and I started pinning a big map of Haverhill. And I came across couple of different sections, but this here we're going to call the Canosa Triangle. All right, so the white is paranormal, the red is UFO sightings, and the green is Bigfoot sightings. Bigfoot sightings stopped in the late 70s, early 80s. But this area is loaded, and the Whittier wrote a lot about this, and John Greenleaf Whittier and wrote about the haunted bridge of Haverhill, which is still in existence. It's no longer a wooden bridge. It's a cement thing that goes over the Mill Brook. He was one of the earlier writers of the paranormal in New England. He wrote about the haunted bridge, the two-headed snake at Newburyport, and the Gloucester Lights, which is a ship that has been seen, and actually I've seen those lights when I stayed at a friend of mine's house who lived on Gloucester Harbor many moons ago. I was young and I could see the lights out harbor. And this was taken over Guile Street in Haverhill about 3 years ago. There's some weird, odd lights here that could be UFO. We did the Tenny Gatehouse already. Another haunted location right here is Walnut Grove Cemetery in Haverhill. No, this Second West Parish, this was Walnut Grove. Second West Parish, located off 97. We were doing an energy circle and this creepy thing showed up over it. This was taken, we had Gavin Cromwell from the UK here doing a cemetery tour of Haverhill, and this was taken in Walnut Grove Cemetery. It's a 1748 cemetery, and the other one was 1786 to 1840. And there was a cabin in the woods along the Haunted Bridge Road, and we believe that might have been one of the earlier Whittier cabins. You can still see the rock foundation of the cabin if you walked out there. This was taken at Great Court State Park in Methuen. You can actually see a head here. This was taken at the Dustin Garrison House in Haverhill, where you can actually see this cat ball was rolling. And some odd stuff going on here too. That was at the same location. And these here were at Great Court. And if you like collecting old photographs and find some old family black and whites, if you look real carefully, sometimes you will see something you don't want to see in these photographs. This was taken at a secret location in Essex County. This was taken in a private home where you can actually see a face right there and a few other things in this picture. This was taken in a private home and sent to me by somebody. And same with this, these were out of the same house, these three. And then this was taken inside the Jewish cemetery. At the 9 o'clock spirit was actually in the front page of the tribute a few years back. And a bunch of light anomalies. And UFOs have been sighted all over these areas of New England, in this area. And the Jewish cemetery is part of the Canosa Triangle. So that's another interesting spot. If you ever want to go view it, to check it out, I would. Then you got the witch house in Boxford, where a convicted witch, the ghost of the Salem Witch Hollow Farms in Boxford. It's still a farm today, built in 1666 in the town of Boxford. Ghostly manifestation is a Mary Tyler, who was condemned of a witch in Salem in 1693, had lived in this house as a young woman. The most enthusiastic observer of Mary in recent times has been the late Arthur Pinkham, who lived in that house in the mid-20th century and spoke and wrote extensively in his memoirs, continuing seeing the ghost of Mary. Pinkham was the grandson of Lydia Pinkham, the inventor of the famed women's tonic by health medicine in the 1800s, early 1900s. So if you cut yourself, you get the Pinkham, which some of their bottles were mostly alcohol and ether mixed together. So that would pretty much solve any major problems you had for cuts. That would kill any bacteria. So that's another one of those sites that's off the beaten track, out of the Salem area. Again, we're not talking Salem, we're talking out of the Essex County area. In Andover, or North Andover, the site of where most of the convicted witches came from, the old two burial grounds right off of Osgood Street, I believe they are. I forget the name of the street. We both got great activity every time we've ever gone there in broad daylight. Remember, if you go to a cemetery in broad daylight, be respectful. If you go at night, please contact the local authorities or local city or town to get permission. Because in Massachusetts, cemeteries are open dawn to dusk. After that, you need permission. All right, now how far does New England Paranormal go? Well, it goes to Bucksport, Maine. Jonathan Buck was born and raised in Haverhill, was thrown out of Haverhill Village because he wanted to put the mill at the bottom of Mill Brook. His mill at the bottom of Mill Brook, and the town said no. He moved up to this area of Maine, and he had this lady convicted and hung for witchery, where she put a curse on him. When he died in the town of Bucksport, Maine, which was named after Jonathan Buck, you see his gravestone, it's got a woman's leg on it. So that's another one of those odd situations where the paranormal meets the normal. And sometimes you never know how it's going to be done at the end. So that's just some of the areas we went over today. Keep an eye on watching either the Paranormal News Zone on Lawrence Community Access TV's YouTube page, or keep an eye out for the Paranormal Zone. We will be live on Halloween night, and we're going to have a guest on talking about the paranormal. I want to thank everybody who came today. And you know, people listening at home on Halloween, happy Halloween, happy Shaman Day, happy All Saints Day. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Good day, good night, everybody.